quietly or not.
You can have all the talent in the world and never get anywhere.
Some artists bait a hook and let you bite upon it.
And now, without further ado,
Coming to you loud and clear.
Okay, welcome to Planet Shivers. I'm Albert Shivers, and I'm here again with Isaac Wilson, doing the producing, making the sound happen. And joining me today, born in Brooklyn, New York, heavily influenced by pinup art of the 70s and 80s, enjoys a good cigar, and whose pencil and graphite work will leave you swearing you're looking at a photograph, Michael Glenn. Thanks for doing the show, man.
No problem, Albert. My pleasure.
No, this is gonna be a lot of fun. So before we get into things, let's bring up a little piece of art news that was published in Daily Art magazine. It goes, every once in a while an accident involving artwork happens. Usually it's the artwork that ends up damaged, but sometimes it is the audience. This was an art exhibit by Anish Kapoor. Doesn't tell me what country it is, but in 1992 he did a piece of artwork called The Black Hole. And his patrons went in to view it. What they thought was a black circle painted on the floor was actually a 2.5 meter deep hole in the floor that a few people fell into, including a 60-year-old man.
Boy, that really gives new meaning to three-dimensional chalk and paint drawings. Wow.
Doesn't it?
Someone took it to the extreme.
Yeah, and like there is a photo here, and it looks, they painted the entire hole black. So it does just look like a black dot. And the way it's lit, you wouldn't even know until you were probably in it.
Too late.
Yeah. So yeah, let's get into some of your own personal art history. How'd you get started doing what you do?
Oh, man. It just was something I always did when I was younger, when I was a kid. It was something I always enjoyed doing. I seemed to be pretty good at it. People were always saying, wow, that looks great. And of course, when you're a kid, you tend to do more of whatever it is they're, praising you about. It was just, really enjoyable. I just kept doing it on my own. But as you grow up and you have a career and you have family and you have kids, you don't get to spend as much time with it. So
right. Now
that my family's a lot older and whatnot, I'm able to spend a lot more time on it. It's truly become a passion the last few years.
And I read on your website that when you were younger, you also did some airbrush and pinstriping.
Yeah. When I was a teenager into cars, it was just, a natural progression, as an artistic endeavor to lean towards pinstriping and eventually airbrushing. Pinstriping was so huge back in the 70s and whatnot. It was so easy to get into and it was so creative. Airbrushing, it was big back then, but man, it was so expensive to get into and keep up with. And I think that's pretty much what kind of kept me away from that, was the amount of money that was being spent on it. And it was just hard to do as a hobby, as it were, But man, I enjoyed it so much. I used to do t-shirts, used to do women's nails before it was a big thing, now.
Wow.
But I would spend, hours doing a woman's nails, where now you go someplace and you get it done in 10 minutes. So.
Yeah. And that's a really small canvas.
Yeah, it was. I think probably that's what got me so into my love of detail. Mm-hmm. When I do a pencil drawing, it's paying attention to the details and not being afraid to spend hours upon hours upon hours on what some may consider such a small detail. So
yeah, well, I think like the small details in any piece of art really are the most important.
True, especially if you're doing like realism or hyperrealism type of stuff. You want to make it look like a photograph.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's generally what attracts me is the photograph, and it's like, wow, I want to draw that, and you got to make it look like the photograph in order to, to catch it. So you get caught up in that detail thing pretty easily.
So you mentioned like you stepped away from art, family and life and all that, which is completely understandable. So when did you get back into it, and what brought you to get back into it?
I'd say the last 5 to 8 years is when it's kind of exploded quite a bit. Mm-hmm. I'd stepped away for a while and there were some things in my life that happened that I regret it happened. It was my stupid mistake. It just after, I don't want to say exactly what happened,
Okay,
but
that's fine.
I just made some bad choices, and I just missed what I was doing. Like I basically gave up drawing because of what transpired, and it was like a stupid mistake on my part. And as it was going on, my sister had given me a gift certificate to AC Moore to go and get some supplies, and it was like a birthday. It was around the time of my birthday, and she just wrote in a card, "Just start drawing again." And it took me a month or two to go out and start getting the supplies and start doing it. But I gotta say, man, from that point on, it's just been crazy. It's, you look back on things and you say things happen for a reason, and this is clearly one of those moments when I can look back and I can say, yeah, you know what, I'm glad things happened the way they did, because in order to work on art the way I do and everything, and to really, I think, be productive, it's got to be a passion. And I'll be honest, when I was younger, it wasn't a passion. It was something I enjoyed, but it wasn't a passion. And the last 5 to 8 years, it's become a passion. So I'm happy with the way things went, even with the the choices I made and the losses from it. I will say that during the time of what issues were going on, I threw away quite a few of my original works. Quite a few. Just threw them away. And I think I've got like maybe 5 or 7 pieces that survived from back in the 80s and whatnot, when I was drawing the way I was. So but given all of that, I'm happy the way it's gone. It's a passion now. Things are really going well. I'm getting a lot of activity. People are loving my work, and I'm drawing for me, and the fact that other people like it, that that's really nice. That's sweet. So
cool. Now, would you say that, like, without going into it, that when you got back into art, that helped you heal and grow from what's going on?
Yeah. There's scientific proof that portion of your brain, that creative side of your brain, really is responsible for getting you out of the dumps, getting you out of the black hole that you may have dug yourself for. It really made a difference. There's nothing going on now that's depressing or anything like that, or tough. It's just pure joy. I get these projects and it's like, yeah, I can do that. That sounds cool. Yeah, let's do that. And that's, I'll see a picture and it's like, oh man, I love that. I want to draw that. Right now my biggest problem is I've got all these ideas and all these things I want to draw, and I just don't have the time. So
Yeah.
I'm hoping that'll even out.
I know a lot of ideas is a good problem to have.
Yeah, I guess.
In a way.
Yeah, everybody talks about that creative block, and knock on wood, I haven't experienced that yet. So much. There might be little things I'm working on, and I'm sometimes at a loss, how to get what's up here in my head onto the paper. But inevitably, it seems to work out. It seems to work out for me. So that's a good thing.
Yeah. So let's talk some about your influences. I know you do a lot of pinup art, and I've been looking through your website. See what are some of the kind of things you've been up to. You do a lot of Sinatra. You get a real cool Elvis portrait. What makes you pick, when you see that picture that inspires you to want to draw it? What is it about that picture that makes you want to draw it?
Usually it's the way the shadows are depicted in the photo, the details that will be in the lighted areas, even the details that'll be in the darkened areas. It's not just about black when it comes to shadows. There's different levels of black, which truly are levels of gray. There's only really one black.
Right.
But it's usually the picture, the way it looks. I love some of the older stars, Marilyn Monroe, Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin. The reason why I've done so many Frank Sinatras is I've had a lot of clients that, enjoy Frank just as well. I've got one client that I have never met. never spoken to. It's a mutual acquaintance of other friends, and he's got, I think, 4 originals that I've done. His face is just so intricate, so much detail, so much experience and knowledge just in his face. You look at him and his face tells a story. So, why wouldn't I want to draw that?
Right.
And then on the other side of the coin, I might be drawing a turtle, or I might be drawing, some sexy pinup.
Mm-hmm.
It's like pinup was a big influence when I was younger, growing up.
Were there any artists that you look towards that have influenced you also?
I loved Olivia de Bernardinis, I believe is how her last name is pronounced. I'm not sure. She's a pinup artist located out in California. And she did, the way I originally was exposed to her was she did pinup art inside Playboy magazines. Okay. And when I was a kid growing up, the basement of my house, we lived with my grandmother and grandfather in the same house, upstairs, downstairs type of thing. And I'd go down the basement all the time, and there'd be stacks as high as I was of, Playboy magazines down there. So, of course, being a little kid, I'd be thumbing through the pages. Mm-hmm. And her artwork just blew me away. It was a combination of watercolors and airbrush and colored pencils and gouache and all these things that I never heard of, never was exposed to, didn't even know exist. And it was like, how did you get that? How did you get that? How did you get it to look like that? Mm-hmm. And it just I don't know, man. I just fell in love with her artwork. And then, of course, certain photographers like Ansel Adams.
Okay.
Believe it or not, there was some of those photographs, I guess, in the Playboy magazine too. There was a lot of good information in Playboy magazine back then. So he influenced me a lot. His photographs, his black and white. It just, you like color because of all the different colors, but man, there's so much that can be done with black and white and 16,000 shades of gray, in between. To make a black and white picture look like a color picture is a huge challenge, and I think that's one of the reasons why I like, graphite pencils so much. I mean, I mess with colored pencils too, but I really like graphite pencils too, so those are pretty much my big influences.
You also recently, or maybe not that recently, you could tell me more, you did a mural in Scranton.
Yeah, about a year ago, actually.
Okay.
I just had the memories come up on my Facebook, and they were having this contest to paint over the fronts of stores that were not occupied, where they put like a sheetrock shell in front of the door to protect it and whatnot, I guess. So they wanted to, make it look pretty. So they had this contest going on, and they reached out to different artists, and my older daughter, had pointed it out to me, and I applied, and luckily I got picked. So I did an underwater theme on it. It was an expansion of an original colored pencil drawing that I pretty much had just finished, of a giant turtle swimming through the water. And I called it Riding the Rays, and that's what I used to apply for it, and they said they loved it, do that. And it was even a better idea because they were having an aquarium built up in there inside that mall, so it was, of course it would, fit right in. So I ended up spending over 180 hours on a just shy of 500 square foot surface, painting a giant turtle and various other undersea characters. And unfortunately, we had a 30-day deadline, so I could only do so much. I wanted to just keep going and just going crazy. I love those kind of projects where there's no deadline and I can just go crazy.
Yeah.
And but it came out really nice. It's still up. I'm going to be going up there in a couple of days, actually, take a look at it and do some other things in the area. But it came out really good.
Nice.
It came out really good.
What other stuff do you have going on in Scranton?
My kids live out there, so
Okay.
I go out there a lot. I'm actually going to be going back to the mall in a couple of days to put up some framed artwork.
Nice.
They just contacted me today, actually, to put some framed artwork up throughout the mall. They've got an area set up where they want to display some artwork, so I've got to go home and clean up some framed up prints that I have and get them ready to hang up and stuff. So I'll be doing that this weekend.
And you've been involved in First Fridays up in Scranton also.
I had a show inside the Scranton Mall for First Friday. That was my only experience with a First Friday. I'd like to spend more time up there and get some more things up in that area. Time permitting and whatnot. Display my art in different areas up in there. There's some cool places up in there that I think my artwork would go over well. I'll probably do a couple more inside the Scranton Mall, I'm sure.
Yeah, I did one at Posh.
Yeah.
In September last year for the First Fridays, and then they get a good amount of people out for those things. It is like good exposure in a different city.
I remember doing it quite a few years ago. There was someone I dated out in Scranton, and I got exposed to it. I hadn't been aware that goes on out there, and a nice summer night, you just walk around to various venues and look at all these artists' works, and I gotta say, I was like blown away by it. I was like, wow, that is so cool. And I remember thinking to myself, that'd be pretty cool if one of these days I had my artwork showing someplace up there. So it's I had my artwork showing up there, and my artwork is up there, but I'd like to do more of that. So.
And you also designed a wine label.
I did. I did one wine label. I'm in the middle 3/4 of the way of a second label, and in the beginning stages of a third label for a local winery, Blue Ridge Estate and Vineyard over in Salisbury.
Okay.
Really great wines, really great atmosphere. I love spending time there. Randy, the owner, is an really energetic guy. I've never done a collaboration in the art world. I've never done anything like it. But working what I've done with Randy through these projects is close to a collaboration as I've ever been. He's such a bundle of excitement, and it was just so cool doing this project with him. The most recent one that we're working on, and the one that we did already, that's already on one of his wines. The wine's called The Estate, and we did the label. I did a drawing of the front of the building, and it really came out cool. And I tried to make it look magical because for me the place is very magical. It's very exciting. And I tried to give it like a nice sunset in the background, and just peace and quietness, and I think I accomplished that. And the way we set the label up, he had come up last minute of the idea of putting the artwork facing in of the bottle as opposed to facing out, so that you would realize the wine, which was made from the first grapes on the property, is in the bottle along with the artwork. So it was a really cool concept. In terms of wine label artwork, it's like an unbelievable business. It's really crazy. So many great ideas and so many big concepts. So knowing that, I thought, let's go with this. That's different. Maybe that'll it'll be cool. And unfortunately, I don't think I got as much exposure out of it. I got some, but now the label we're working on now is a lot more. It's going to be on the outside of the bottle, and I think it's going to just be huge. I think it's going to get a lot of exposure once it comes out. Hopefully that's going to be soon.
And is it an original piece you did?
Yeah. I did this specifically for the idea. I don't want to get in too much of what it is. It's for a particular wine that he has. I guess I could talk about it. I mean, because it'll be a while before this comes out. It's he whatever gave him the idea. It gave him the idea to put food grade glitter, like what you would put on cupcakes and cakes and things like that, edible glitter, and he puts it inside the wine. And you shake the bottle around and it looks like a lava lamp kind of. And it's like, it's so cool, you know, it's just such the coolest thing. And there's multitudes of colors and whatnot. So he's got this wine, he's had it out for a while. He's got a store in the Crossings that sells, you know, just this wine. I think it might sell the other wines too, but he's got like all these different colors and it's selling it. And he wanted like a special, you know, label for it. So after a couple of days of thinking about it, I do a lot of, you know, sexy drawings and, you know, women's faces and portraits, and I came up with this little idea, and it's a woman's face, and it's got like the Boku effect, you know, like an out of focus lights and glitter in the distance where there's circles. It's called Boku. Okay. And I put that on the edges to kind of like blend in with the bottle. And this is all done in grayscale because we wanted the color of the bottle to stand out. And it's going to be a long and thin label, you know, very small. It's going to be like more glass than anything else. It's not going to be your standard size label. It's going to be much smaller. And the only color that's going to be on it is that the certain sections of the Boku, I took the drawing, made prints of it, and then I took the glitter. There's 10 different colors, so I took the glitter and I made a paint out of the glitter, and I painted little sections of the edges of the picture, the exact color of what the wine will be. So if the wine is one of the pink wines or the red wines or the purple wines, the label is going to have that exact color in the label. So there's going to be like 10 different labels, but all the same picture. And then as we were doing it, as I gave him the beginning idea of it, I did a quick sketch of an idea. Well, quick sketch. It lasted about a week, and I put like 40 hours into it.
Sometimes that's a quick one.
Yeah, that is a quick one. He came up with the idea of just using like a random face where we used his wife as the woman's face that I did the drawing with. So it's a lot more personal to him and his family, and it means much more to him and his family. So we, you know, we started working on that, and you know, we're at a point where the picture's complete. We're waiting for authorizations from the legal companies and departments that have their say in how the label looks and all that stuff, and hopefully it'll be out soon, and we'll be having, you know, an unveiling for it.
So does this wine stay exclusively in PA, or is it? I
think he sells it around too. I believe he's associated with an online establishment that sells a lot of his wines, and he's number 13 winery in the U.S.
Wow.
And number 1 on the East Coast. You know, and that says a lot for you know, a winery located in Pennsylvania to be, you know, 13th out of the whole U.S. in terms of wines. He's got some wines that have won, you know, international awards. He's got some really good wine.
No, that sounds like a cool project.
Yeah, it is. And every once in a while it keeps coming back, and we got something else to work on. We got one that we're in the, you know, design stages at the moment. You know, it'll be my third one if it comes out. It's working in a collaboration with him has been really, really enjoyable. He's just a bundle of creativity, and I just love doing that. So it's been really cool. It's been fun projects. I love, you know, when at first this one we were working on, I was like, man, what am I going to do with this? And then about 3 days into it, the ideas just started flowing. So it's been pretty cool. I'm enjoying it.
Cool. Do you have any other art, like personal stuff that you're working on?
I do a lot of stuff for myself, or things that appeal to me. That when I'm not working on a commission or not working on a project, I'll do it. I've got probably 50 or 100 little projects lined up that I want to do. I've got grandkids, and they're like 3 and 4 years old. There's certain shows they watch, and one of them is How to Train Your Dragon.
Okay.
I don't know if you're familiar with that.
A little bit, yeah.
Well, there's scenes where the guy's driving, I think his name is Hiccup, and he's riding around on the back of a dragon. So I had this idea to, draw my grandson on the back of the dragon. So that's like a project I've got going on for myself, but of course it's taking a back seat because I got these other things going on. But I will get that done because it is such a cool concept, and I know he's going to love it. So it's something I want to do. So there's a lot of things like that sitting around on paper that I've kind of started laying out on things that are in my mind, things that I've started doing reference searches to get ideas, and I've got them all, bundled up in a folder on my computer. And, like I said, I've got a ton of ideas going on, but I work a full-time job in addition to doing this, so I don't have as much time as I'd like, but hopefully in the future I'll have more time, once I retire and whatnot, and start doing this more full-time.
As I look back through your work and some of your progress shots, you may have finished it now, but you've been working on a portrait of what looks like a young girl with flowers around her face.
Yeah, I think I'm done with that. That was like a small 5x7. She's looking into a daisy or something like that. Yeah. I think I called that Smelling Daisies. That was I did a pencil grayscale graphite drawing of it, and for whatever reason I figured, let me add some color to it, and I added some color pencils to the daisy, and it came out pretty good. Someone was looking to buy it, and she never followed through on it. So I've still got it. That happens, people. They say they want something and it never materializes. That's it happens. Yeah. But I've still got that. I've got some prints of that one too. That was an enjoyable one to do. It wasn't of any of my grandchildren, but it made me think of my granddaughter, of course. I think I did a couple like that, a couple of small ones with the graphite and the colored pencil.
Yeah, I've seen you did the couple of ladybug ones.
Yeah, there was another one. Was a ladybug. There was a ladybug sitting on a mushroom. Yeah. Yeah.
No, those came out great too.
Thanks.
Yeah. So now you mainly work pencil and graphite, and so what is that process like, from when you say, okay, this is what I'm going to draw, so you get the paper, and from start to finish, how do you get from beginning to end?
Well, I get the ideas first. If it's going to be a composite of multiple photographs, I'll get all the photographs together and think about how I'm going to lay out the drawing. Eventually, what I'll do is I'll start by graphing out the drawing so that I get the composition, 100%. I want to get everything laid out in that respect, so that this way I know that's all correct, and then I can work on the shading, which is what to me makes the drawing come to life. I mean, the composition's got to be right, everything's got to be shaped right. The eyes have to be the right place, and the nose and the mouth, all that's got to be right. If I know that's good, then I can just concentrate on the shading and do what I'm going to do to it. I may make it lighter than what the photograph is that I saw. I may make it darker. I may, try to do something like an HDR photograph, high dynamic range. Okay. I may try to do that effect. That's been another influence in from me in photography, the way you can highlight shadows and whatnot and really bring them up using maybe Photoshop or something. So once I lay it out, I just start going with the photographs. One thing I used to do as a mistake was I would I would make multiple copies of the photograph, maybe bringing up the highlights in one and you know, bringing up the darks in the other. So this way I could see the details, you know, because again, I'm all about the details. I like to put details in my drawings.
Right.
And I made the mistake of following too many different reference photos where it would just get muddy with all the others, and I couldn't get a specific look, and I would spend up too much time. One minute I make this area too dark, and it's like, no, I got to make it lighter, you know, and you spend just as much time with an eraser as you do with a pencil, you know. Now I've just gotten to the point where I make a photo of how I want it, and I just go off of that one photo. And if there's a detail that I want to, you know, look a little bit more, then I'll look a little bit more into that. But I'll always be referencing that one photo. So I seem to be doing better when I do that.
Like, where would people be able to pick up your art? You know, if they were interested, other than, you know, maybe seeing you in Scranton or at someplace where your art is shown. Is it available online?
I am. I've got various presence online. I've been putting just as much time into building that aspect of it as much as drawing rather. I mean, I really just want to draw, but I'm realizing that people, you know, like my stuff, and you know, hey, I got to make it available. So I've got a Facebook presence. I've got an Instagram presence. I've got a web page presence. People can reach out to me that way. I'm accessible via email. Email is mlglenn, Glenn, fineart @gmail.com. And basically all my web presence is, again, mlglenn, mlglennfineart.com. You can search for, you know, either of those on Facebook and Instagram, and even on Google, and it'll bring up that. I think it even brings up my Pinterest. I've got a Pinterest site where I save all my, you know, photos that I'd love to draw someday, and let me tell you, it's pretty big.
Yeah, no, I have similar things, folders on my computer. Saved images.
When I was a kid, when I was younger, there was something that was referred to a reference folder or reference thing. It was artists called it a morgue.
Okay.
And it was just this giant manila envelope of all these magazine pictures and things like that, you know, you'd want to use as a reference at some point in time. To me, Pinterest is you know, the morgue of what it was back in the, you know, the 60s and the 70s. It's and the morgue was another thing I threw away back in the day when things were, you know, things were bad at that point in time. Not that I used it anymore, but it still brought back some memories seeing that thing. But yeah, Pinterest is just a great source of photographs and, you know, influence, and, you know, it gets the gears turning and you start creating something. So
yeah, I was using which is sort of, it dawned on me accidentally one day to use a reference to drawing buildings or structures that were like different, you know, than what's around here or just what you're used to. Is I started going on Google Earth and just going to different countries on Google Earth. Go to Italy, go to Spain, go to wherever, and just looking at their architecture.
I never would have even thought of that. That's a good idea.
I was just like, to be honest, just sort of just, you know, dicking around on Google Earth, looking at different places, and I came to this circle. I was with a friend of mine, and her mother is from Italy. So we typed in her mother's hometown, and we're in this beautiful circle with a fountain and the whole bit. And you know, you could drag the little guy and drop him and be on the street view of Google Earth. And I'm looking at the architecture, I'm like, this is amazing. I should draw this. And then the light bulb went off. It's like, I could do this with everything, you know?
I never thought of that. That's a pretty good idea. I'm going to have to look into that.
Yeah, no, it's a fun resource, even for like those little things that we see every day.
Right.
But when you have to sit down and draw
and look at the detail.
A telephone pole or a signpost, you know, like, you know, and you don't have the opportunity to go out and do it. You just type it in and pull up basically whatever you want. So yeah, that was a fun accident.
Some accidents work well.
Yeah.
It's all about the good accidents.
Well, Mike, I really do appreciate you coming and doing this. This has been a lot of fun chatting with you.
My pleasure.
We've been in the same sort of circles for a little while now.
Yeah.
But it's good to kind of learn your background a little bit. And thanks for coming on the show.
Hey, thank you.
And just to remind everybody, I'm just going to recite you websites and places where people can pick up your art. Even check it out. It's www.mlglennfineart.com.
Correct.
And on Facebook, it's mlglennfineart. And on Instagram, you can go to @mlglenn_fine_art.
Correct.
Very cool. So everybody should go check out his stuff. You will not regret it. It's photorealism. Real good stuff, man. Thanks for doing the show. I'm glad.
Hey, thanks you.
Thank you for listening to the Planet Shivers podcast. This production and others can be found on iTunes, SoundCloud, and archives.org. It can also be found with video content on the Albert Shivers YouTube channel. You can find even more content on Facebook @Albert Shivers Visual Artist and on Instagram @Albert Shivers. You can find Isaac Wilson's work on Instagram @WhenInZen. That's when_in_Zen. Thank you again for listening, and don't forget to like and subscribe.